Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. Sitting down with me right now here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm really happy to be talking with author H.K. Guerra. H.K., thank you for joining me. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Corey. Great to be here. I appreciate that.
I appreciate you and got to congratulate you. Your new book is titled Mystical Adventure Warriors, The Enchanted Land. HK, can you tell me all about it?
Absolutely. So it's an honor to be here to talk to you about the release of my new action book. In this story, I'm so captivated, you're going to be transported into the land of Aloria, where you're going to find a group of unassuming warriors going on an adventure filled with danger and excitement around every corner of the kingdom. They go on a life-changing journey. They're going to be challenged to find themselves and prove their courage. You'll also find a gallant general who's going to lead the charge to protect the enchanted land from a dangerous menace. But also, you're going to find a young girl who will make a most peculiar but remarkable discovery that will forever change her destiny.
What kinds of readers do you think would be into this the most?
Well, I hope this book will grab the attention of the fans of the fantasy genre. Not just older kids, but adults who enjoy reading such stories. And I think the title's intriguing because not only will it pique your interest, but I believe it truly captures the essence of the story.
It's definitely interesting. How did this all come about, HK? What gave you the idea for it?
I was dabbling with this story on and off for like 3 years. And it really wasn't until this past year that I really stepped it up to complete the book, because it was just basically me wanting to put to paper my poor wife. I would just give her all kinds of outlandish stories and bend her poor ear. And then one day it just dawned on me, hey, why don't you just write it down instead of torturing your poor wife with all these stories? And then sure enough, I was on my way.
So are you experienced in all this, or are you kind of treading on some new ground here?
Oh, this is definitely new ground because I'm proud to say this is my first work in creative writing, because I don't have a lot of experience in creative writing. Everything's been more professional, but it's been such a wonderful experience. It's been a lot of love, a lot of work, but it's been so worthwhile.
Once you got started on Mystical Adventure Warriors, the writing, publishing, HK, was this a long journey that you were on altogether?
Oh, it really was a long journey. And it wasn't just because of the writing, as I had mentioned. I've never really been into creative writing, but it was also of self-discovery. And it was just looking at, from a point of view as a born-again Christian, I felt compelled, to write a meaningful story about human connections, especially in this day and age of incredible technologies. And I've faithfully served families throughout my 20-plus career, and I gained a certain insight. Families would share with me that how their personal arguments and struggles would get in the way, how they would truly feel about each other, and how there was a lack of quality books and movies these days that teach good morals and basic life lessons. Books that they could bond over and talk about. So as a result, Mystical Adventure Warriors was born.
So you got your manuscript all worked up and you started working with your publisher, Covenant Books. What did you find the most challenging part of that publishing end of things?
Well, I think it's been just an incredible education to understand how just because you have written something doesn't mean it is ready to go to publishing. There's a lot of other pieces involved, much more than I really had anticipated. But again, it's been such a wonderful ride because there's the creative side, but then there's actual practical side and understanding, am I really conveying the right message? Am I really putting a good story with some, good subject matter? So it was very humbling because I saw that creative writing was a lot more to it than I realized.
And then one day it was finally a real thing, a tangible thing. You were holding that first copy in your hands. What was that moment like for you?
Oh, you mean after I wiped away my tears and got choked up throwing my family the book? Sweet elation, gratitude, satisfaction, and a tremendous sense of relief.
Well, this sounds so exciting. Again, it's titled Mystical Adventure Warriors, The Enchanted Land. It's written by H.K. Guerra, published by Covenant Books, and pretty much available everywhere, like Amazon, and Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. HK, it has been so nice talking with you here tonight. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Corey, for having me on your show. I really do appreciate it.
I'm looking at a new collection of poetry written by D.R. Scotte. It's titled Soul Songs 1, The First 15 Years of Poetic Purpose. And the author, Scotte, is right here with me now. We're going to be talking all about it. Scotte, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Hey, Corey, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to share the story.
I'm excited to be talking with you and excited to learn all about Soul Songs 1. So can you tell me all about what readers are going to find here?
Well, the book is a book of poetry, and it began about 23 years ago. I never wrote poetry before, but deeper down, it's really not a book about poetry. It's about an event in my life and the experience I had and how I found my purpose.
Scotte, what kinds of readers do you think would be really into it?
You know, when I survived 9/11, which is how this book, came about, my wife handed me a book, and it really set me on a path and really helped me out of a terrible depression. Maybe it was survivor's guilt or whatever they call it, PTSD. And when that event occurred, my wife came to my aid and she handed me this book, and it just opened up my eyes to spirituality and a different path. And for the last 23 years, that book and many others that I've read helped me. And I'm hopeful that the audience that wants to maybe go beyond materialism and go beyond, daily life grind, really wants to connect to a higher source or higher being would be interested in this.
So this all came about after surviving 9/11. I'm interested in that, Scotte. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I actually was at the base of the World Trade Center a few days before. I was in the paper. I was an attorney at the time, and I was at a press conference. And then I had a scheduled meeting at a firm called Harris Beach and Wilcox on the 85th floor on Tuesday, which was 9/11. Coincidentally or miraculously, at the time I couldn't make heads or tails of why. I got a phone call and, the meeting was adjourned shortly before, our meeting. And unfortunately, virtually everybody who was in the 85th floor or higher, didn't survive.
So what does your writing background look like, Scotte? Do you have a lot of experience doing this kind of thing?
Well, like I said, I never wrote poetry before. I truly call them soul songs because I think they come from a place beyond me. I really feel that people who read it hopefully will get the same value out of it that I get out of it. But I did write before. I am a published author under a different name. This is a pen name, as I do not seek, personal publicity for myself. I think the message speaks for itself, and I hope people appreciate it.
So once you had it all together and you started working with your publisher, Christian Faith, what did you find the most challenging part of that whole publishing end of things?
Well, for me, it was a little bit different, Corey. I had written, this over the last 23 years. Actually, this is like the first 15 years of the messages or the soul songs that I got. So they were all documented. It was just a matter of putting it together. And unfortunately, my wife passed away in July of 2023, and she was the inspiration behind the book. So, that's when I decided to release it. I kind of kept the message to myself all these years. Most of it was already written.
I could only imagine what you were thinking and feeling whenever it was finally real. You're holding the first copy of Soul Songs. Scotte, what kind of a moment was that like for you?
It was really to honor, my wife. She inspired me and helped me get beyond that day. So I don't know that I would have released it, but for her, passing on. And I just felt like it was kind of a relief to get it out there. And it was fun working with the publishing group. They were really supportive. They liked the work and really encouraged me to release it, along with some friends who really encouraged me.
So again, we're talking about Soul Songs 1. I assume you have Soul Songs 2 and maybe some more planned out?
Well, it's funny that you should say that. I made it Soul Songs 1 with the, opportunity, maybe one day to continue. But if you go through the whole book and you get to the end, I kind of gave sheet notes for people because every one of the soul songs has a message in it. And so I try to accumulate the 23 years of messages that I received so far. So hopefully there's a lot of messages that will help people.
What a wonderful book. Again, this is Soul Songs 1, The First 15 Years of Poetic Purpose. It's written by D.R. Scotte, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available really everywhere. Places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Scott, it's been great talking with you tonight and learning all about soul songs. Thanks so much for being here.
Corey, thank you so much.
The new book by Kimberly Corder is designed to help readers of all backgrounds grow closer to the Lord. And Kimberly is right here. The book is called Jesus in the Suffering. We're going to talk all about it. Kimberly, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yes, thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk with you today, Kimberly, and I'm excited to learn all about Jesus in the Suffering. So what are readers going to find here?
It is a very short and simple devotional, which was really my point when I was going through my own battle of cancer. I really wanted to just encourage others through their own times as well and put together something that was quick and simple but effective on our walk with Christ and just bring that to life for others.
What inspired you to start on this?
I had so many people when I got through my second battle. It was a very tough battle. I almost died. It was just much harder than my first battle with cancer 10 years ago. And so many people would keep saying, well, what did you do? How did you stay so strong in your faith? What are things I can do? And I just felt on my heart one day, put it into writing. Write it down, and that will be how you show others what you did. And hopefully that will bless them and help them as well.
Kimberly, what does your writing background look like? Are you experienced in this kind of thing, or are you kind of treading on new ground here?
Totally new ground. I felt that calling from the Lord, and I've always liked to write things down, and I've always liked to try to inspire others. And so I think after all of this, I just realized, okay, I think we need to do this.
So once you started on it, you wrote it, and then got it published. Was this a long journey overall for you?
It was not as long as I anticipated it being. When I sat down and I started typing, the Lord just spoke to me, and it came to life fairly quickly. And then I reached out and we started the process.
Yeah, you got your manuscript already and you started working with a publisher, Covenant Books. What did you find the most challenging part of that whole publishing end of things for you?
I think the most challenging part was my personal worries in my head. Is this going to be good? When they were waiting to approve it, okay, is this good enough for them? What are others going to think of it? But they made it a very smooth process, and I couldn't be happier with it.
Well, now it's official. You're a published author. So when you think about that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Really just knowing that there are so many people out there that are benefiting. I've already been reached out to by some people I know, but some others I actually don't know personally. And they've said, they got their hands on it, or a family member showed it to them and it helped them, and it really encouraged them through their difficult times. And that to me is the best thing I could get for that.
So looking ahead, do you think you would do this again? Do you think you maybe have some more books in you?
Absolutely. I've already been brainstorming a little bit of something for the future. So I will definitely go at it again.
Well, a lot of our listeners right now are authors who are just starting out, and I'm sure you learned a lot along the way of doing all this, Kimberly. So is there maybe some advice that you could throw out there for them?
I would just say keep going, keep pushing. If you feel stuck, just take a deep breath, give yourself a break, go for a walk, come back and keep going at it, and just have faith that you can do it.
And it's hard to do it alone, and it sounded like you had your family behind you. Were those the ones that kept you pretty much the most inspired and encouraged as you went along?
Yes, absolutely. When I told my husband, he didn't even hesitate. He said, let's do this. So having that encouragement is huge, and that's one thing I would recommend to anyone starting that journey is find those that will encourage you along the way and lean into that.
It's titled Jesus in the Suffering. It's written by Kimberly Corder, published by Covenant Books, and available at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes,
Also, right down the street at your local bookshop. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on the show, telling me a little bit about your story and all about this book. It's been really nice talking with you.
Yes, thank you. It was a pleasure getting to talk with you.
Joining me again here at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm very happy to welcome D.L. Crager and Dr. Shelly Crager. Darren, Shelly, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Corey. Appreciate it.
I wanted to congratulate you. The audiobook edition of Is Your Life Out of Order just came out. Darren, can you tell me all about this and what readers can find here?
Oh, you bet. It is a fun read, especially for families that seem to find themselves in the middle of kind of chaos per se. It's just the life is just stretching you at 4 different directions, going 100 miles an hour, and mom and dad trying to make life happen and form a family, and sum it up real quick. The cover of the book is a vending machine titled Life Machine. Inside this machine, where all the food things are, we've got these little books per se that are have each title, such as money, family, kids, love, fun, sleep, home, sex, church. All the ingredients and things that we do in life. But on the outside of the vending machine, taped to the front, is a sign that says out of order. Because all these things I just mentioned, they just do get out of order. And we find ourselves stressed out, just trying to make relationships work. So what we've done with this book is taken all these areas of life and honed in on our 5 most valuable relationships that we have. So we pinpointed those, which is about God being our first main relationship, our spouse, our children, our careers, then extracurricular activities, that we do for fun, sports, watching TV, and stuff like that. So we take those to help simplify life for everybody and then put them in order.
Yeah. And one of the things is we took each of those 5 priorities, and the reason we chose a hand to put them on was because when you have your hand, all of the digits can kind of come together and touch each other. But if you have things out of order, then they can't. And you just kind of get this jumbled mess on your hands. You get fingers that are overlapping with each other. And I think just to kind of give you one little highlight in there, I would bring, so we put God first, which is on the thumb, which is a digit that goes a totally different direction than all of the other fingers, but it's also the one that can touch all of the fingers. So in the book, we're really talking about the importance of making sure that you are grounding your life in God, and so He can guide and direct all of those relationships that He's given us. The spouse is the second one, and the world tells us different a little bit because the third one is kids. And many times the world will tell us that your kids need to come first, that you need to make sure all of your focus is going to your kids. But what kids need the most is to see a healthy marriage. Kids need to see their mom and dad in a healthy relationship and a healthy marriage so that they can be healthy kids. And so our book is really just talking about how do we take each one of those and make sure that we're prioritizing them and that we're not putting them in an order that's going to give us chaos in our house.
And this is the audiobook edition of Is Your Life Out of Order. Was that a difficult process to get just the right voice that you were looking for?
Yes. There's so many wonderful narrators out there. And choosing the right one that would fit for a man to listen to, a woman to listen to, would just bring it all together. Yes, choosing the right narrator, it's a very important thing. So
it was also hard because Darren and I are both such visual people, and the book is very visual. We have a lot of pictures in the book that explain a lot of the things that we're talking about, and you can't capture that on an audiobook. Yeah. And so they had to really be creative on how to capture some of those pictures that go along with the scenes.
Yeah, because we have the hand. It's the biggest thing we have. Spreading the fingers out and God, the thumb and spouse and children and career stuff. So it took a long time to put the right words together for the narrator to be able to express. And so you got a visual from what they were saying and what we're trying to relay to everybody.
What a fantastic book. Again, this is titled, Is Your Life Out of Order? It's written by D.L. Crager and Dr. Shelly Crager and published by the Audiobook Network. So find it at Audible and iTunes, Amazon, anywhere that you usually go to get your audiobooks. Darren and Shelly, it's been really great talking with you again. Thank you so much for being here.
Corey, thank you so much. This has just been a great time. Thank you.
Thank you.
This book is a memoir of faith and personal growth. It's written by Lynne Berghorn, titled Spirit of Love. Lynne's son, Barry, is right now here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we'll be talking all about the book. Barry, welcome. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you very much.
Barry, can you tell me all about Spirit of Love and what readers are going to get into here?
Well, it's about many things. Kindness and love, of course, is most important. She experienced with various people and groups. So that would be, the main part of what she's about, talking about the kindness and love.
And what sort of a reading audience do you think would get the most out of this?
Well, she was hoping that the audience would be couples with children. She has written a few of the poems about children and how important it is to be a good parent. Christians, adults seeking spiritual poems, and people who look for new works of poetry, I guess, is what she considered to be the most important.
And did Lynne have a lot of experience publishing and writing books, or was this kind of the first one for her?
Well, she had a couple of books printed up earlier in her life, but they weren't really published. They were just personal books that she printed up and handed out to friends. So this was really the first major book being published.
And when it came to that publishing experience, working with Christian faith, was that a challenging thing, or did that go pretty smoothly?
No, it went pretty smoothly. It took a lot longer than we thought it would take. But she enjoyed working with Brittany and some of the people from Christian faith, and they were good. They were really nice people.
So once it was finally a real thing, you were holding that first copy in your hands. I can only imagine what you were thinking and feeling at that moment, Barry. What was that like?
Oh, it was just wonderful. We, of course, had the privilege of sending it all to various people in our family, and they loved it. And it was just really a thrilling, wonderful experience.
And so now that it's out there, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
When people think about it and tell her that they've read it, obviously that really made a lot of difference in her life. She was really conscious of people who would be reading the book, and she would try to be nice and not too demanding of her, of reading the book or buying the book or whatever, but just to talk about it a little bit. She loved the book. It was her life, really. It's what she wanted to do.
Barry, I understand that you have some examples of your wife's poetry for us.
Sure. In the course of the Spirit of Love, as I said, it was about kindness and love she experienced with children with special needs. An example of that, I can say, is when Cincinnati, in a grade 3 class that had issues of anger, swearing, and physical violence within the third grade class group. She met with the class every Wednesday for 50 minutes to work out their problems. A magic circle on page 4 of the book is about that experience. It's thoughts and secrets, boo-boos and troubles, laughter and sneezes, even hugs and squeezes. Memories and warm feelings, your gift to me, notes and drawings, treasures I'll always keep. We've made feel important, dear children, with your kind and caring ways. You always remember your magic listening and talking, sending love all around the circle. I'll never forget you.
Barry, a lot of people who are listening right now are authors who are just starting out in this whole thing. So do you have maybe something in the way of advice that you could offer?
Well, I would rather have my wife make that a lot, things of advice. And she did want to relate to parents and with children. Our children on page 68 of the book is an example of that. He said, we're here to protect, to guide them along life's troubled way. They're not ours, they're God's. It's just with us they stay. Our children watch us. Regard your language. Use modest, gentle actions. Discipline with kindness. Never hit a child. Ugly words cut a life. It's with love they best can learn. To begin each day with a grateful prayer helps our humor and our patience. With love, our children return home to God.
Again, it's titled Spirit of Love. It's written by Lynne Berghorn, published by Christian Faith Publishing and available at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Barry, thank you so much for joining me here and telling me all about this book. It was really nice talking with you.
Take care.
This is a coming-of-age tale about family, change, and holding on to childhood freedom. It's the new book by Charlene Dowell. It's titled Free Millie, and we're going to be talking all about it. The author, Charlene, is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Charlene, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here with me, Charlene. Can you tell me all about Free Millie and what readers are going to find here?
Free Millie. Millie is a young girl raised on the family farm in a small rural town. Her core values are, faith, family, and the farm. And she is growing up. She's coming out of 6th grade as a 12-year-old. It's her last summer in her mind as a child because she'll be turning 13 soon. And with that, going into junior high. And so she's realizing there's some changes going on. She experiences her first crush and realizes why they call it a crush. She experiences a lot of love for her family, but she gets herself into some pretty tight spots. Her humor is what guides her, and she's just a young girl trying to figure it out.
So would you say it's an adolescent audience, then, that would really enjoy this the most?
I do. And most of the books that have been selling, that is the age that have enjoyed it, like 5th grade through high school. But I have had some adults who've read it just because it's kind of geared around yesteryear, like back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, when things seemed a little slower and a little easier. So it has that appeal for an older crowd, too.
Now, Charlene, how did this come about? Where'd you get the idea for this?
This book I had written years ago and kind of put on the shelf. While it is fiction, it does embody my life growing up on the farm with my twin sister. And Millie has a twin sister and a younger sister and younger brother, and so do I. Our family, there was just so much that you could write about them and enjoyable things that kind of made me chuckle. Maybe not when I was a kid, but now when I look back at it, I find humor in it and the things that were going on back at that time.
So when it comes to writing and publishing and everything like that, Charlene, is this all new ground for you, or do you have some experience in it?
No, this was my first book. Free Millie is written as a series. This was the first book that I have released. Kind of waiting to see how this book sells and where the interest is before releasing the others. But it starts with Millie going into junior high. The next few series are junior high years and high school years to graduation. And all of her free-spirited experiences and drama through those years as a young girl.
So once you connected with your publisher, Christian Faith, and you started that whole process, Charlene, what did you find the most challenging part about that whole publishing end of things?
There's a lot of rewrites. There's a lot of going over copy and going over it again and then sending it back and doing it again. So I think that was a little bit surprising to me, how many times we had to rewrite and how many times we changed the way we were proceeding to make it flow for the reader. That was probably a little bit challenging, but my publisher was fabulous. My agent was great. She just kind of guided me through every step.
Well, now it's official, Charlene. You're a published author. Your work is out there for the whole world. So when you think about all of that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
The most rewarding for me is getting to share the experiences with my own children and grandchildren. They have really loved the book. And my husband and my kids, they were the ones that encouraged me the most. And that's been the most rewarding to see that they've enjoyed it so much.
Well, again, this book is titled Free Millie. It's written by Charlene Dowell and published by Christian Faith Publishing. It's pretty much available everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also right down the street at your local bookshop. Charlene, it's been great talking with you tonight and learning all about Free Millie. Thanks again for talking with me.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you all very much.
This book is a guide to finding purpose, healing, and success through Christian principles. It's co-written by Michael Ojugo and Clement Ojugo. It's titled Destined for Greatness, a guide to overcoming adversity and self-discovery. Michael and Clement are right here with me now, and we get to talk all about this book. Michael, Clement, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Well, thank you for having us. Thank you.
I'm anxious to learn about Destined for Greatness, so what are readers going to find here?
Well, to start off, the central theme of my book, our book, revolves around maintaining a balanced perspective in the face of adversity. Staying determined in the pursuit of one's goals and displaying moral fortitude. The importance of maintaining composure and taking responsibility for one's actions and learning from failures is key for our success. That's what we believe here, and this is what our message is to the people. Anyone needing some sort of guidance, we put God first, as it says in Proverbs 16:9. It says, the heart of a man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps.
So what sorts of readers do you think would be really into this the most?
Anybody, really. Anybody searching for guidance, young or old. We can always evolve and we can always be better. Age does not discriminate when it comes to becoming better, wanting to become better. We touch topics such as physical fitness, but the most important thing is our spiritual growth. We want to let people know that that's the number one thing, and that's how to better ourselves.
Very well said, Michael, because at the end of the day, other than young children, everyone really should be able to pick up this book and gain something from it. Yes, you will have spiritual growth, but also physical growth, meaning that you take care of your health. And all of that we talked about in the book.
Well, how did this all come about? How did you come to work together on this?
Well, to be quite honest, in my 20s, I was having a hard time with addiction, alcohol being the main addiction of mine. And I was just spiraling down the wrong path, and I was lost in Los Angeles as a young man, being associated with the wrong people. I needed some sort of guidance, and I reached out to my father. By doing that, our bond became stronger. He had taught me many lessons. All these lessons throughout my life he was already talking to me about, but for whatever reason, as a young person, you don't want to take these into account. But then I started applying these values and principles into my life. And I told my dad that these things, are so important, and I want people to know about these things. And I suggested that we should start, writing these things down, his teachings, and that's what we did. We started journaling, writing letters back and forth, and we were able to cultivate something extremely special. And that's what we have here.
Indeed, the book is markedly distinct from other books because, again, it includes end chapter recaps and a reflection and references. Just like Michael mentioned, it's a work of love. And it stems from everything you just mentioned, from a father to a son. And then again, he took it from there. Michael just took it from there and journalized everything and put it into a book.
So once you decided to get started on this, was it a long journey overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
Well, the book itself took us about, I would say, an estimation about a year, give or take. When it came to publishing and all that, my dad has experience with that. He is the author himself of Practical Food and Beverage Cost Control. It's an accounting book. This is our first book, self-help book. He was able to find a few publishers, and, we were blessed to find a great one, Christian Tech Publishing, that took us under the wing. And just another thing is my dad just came out with another book 3 weeks ago titled Fear Factor. So, yeah, definitely check that one out.
So once you started working with Christian Faith, they're a great company. Is there anything you found particularly challenging about that publishing end of things?
No, from my perspective, Christian Faith Publishing, it doesn't get better than that. They know their stuff. Michael and I were very comfortable with them, and they did a quality work with us, with our book.
They worked very well with us, and yeah, we're very, very happy with them.
Well, what an important book. This is going to help so many people. Again, it's titled Destined for Greatness, a guide to overcoming adversity and self-discovery. It's co-written by Michael Ojugo and Clement Ojugo, and it's published by Christian Faith Publishing. So really, it's available pretty much everywhere, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Michael, Clement, it's been really wonderful talking with you and learning all about this book. Thank you so much for being on the show with me tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I'm looking at a book that's a testimony of faith and healing. It's written by Philip L. Winteregg, and it's titled Blessed, A Journey Through Grief to Gratitude. Philip is right here with me now, and we're talking all about the book. Philip, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Philip, I'm curious about Blessed and what readers are going to be finding here. Can you tell me all about it?
I wrote about my personal journey, my personal story. I lost my wife after 42 years of marriage and went through that grieving process and came out on the other side. As part of that, I had a lot of people that told me, listen, Phil, the lessons you learned, I know someone who needs to hear that. I have a family member or whatever. So just kind of came to the point where I wrote a story about what happened, but most importantly about how God walked me through that, how God took me through and brought me through grief.
Philip, what kinds of readers do you think that this would really connect with?
Well, obviously, I think someone who's lost a loved one, that would be an obvious choice, or someone who's had a similar type of tragedy. But I think also anyone who is facing a difficult time, maybe they've kind of hit that proverbial wall and don't know how to move forward with their life. They've had some kind of great loss or disappointment. And I think the story is one where I tried to demonstrate that the more that I depended on God, the more He walked me through and showed me a way forward and showed me a way to a new life.
So once you started writing it, clear up through the publishing process and when it got out there for everyone, Philip, was this a long journey overall?
The writing a book and going through all that process, this was new to me. This was the first book I've written. And so, yes, it took more time. But I think it was effective time. There was a lot of feedback. Writing a book like this is something that you really have to be convicted of, but you also need to be humble. You have to be willing to listen to others, get feedback, and take your time to be clear about what you're trying to write.
So once you started working with Christian Faith and you started that whole publishing thing, there's so much involved there. What did you find the most challenging part about that end of things for you?
I think it was just initially with them, I don't know that I would call it challenging. I just thought it was interesting. The editing process took a while, going back and forth. The insights they had, it was thankfully, apparently I didn't do too bad of a job because there was really nothing as far as, the storyline or anything like that. It was really mostly just an issue. Maybe there's some grammar or some punctuation and things like that. But I found that really intriguing, but it also was a lot more involved than what I expected.
So a lot of work, a lot of time went into it, and then finally one day it was a real thing. You're holding this in your hands for the first time, Philip. What was that like?
That was really humbling because it was not something that I ever thought that I would do. Then to see that actually come to fruition, it was really very humbling to see that happen. But at the same time, very exciting because my hope was that through writing this, that maybe somebody else would be helped. Maybe they would be encouraged and feel better about how to move forward in their life.
Looking ahead, do you think you would do it again? Do you think maybe you have some more books in you?
Possibly. I've been kind of bouncing around a couple of ideas now that I've done it and have a better perspective on, just what all is involved. So, yeah, I've been kind of bouncing around a couple of ideas. And as a result of it, I actually have a online Christian publication that's reached out to me about possibly doing some articles for them.
Well, I'm holding the book right now. I'm looking at this cover, and this is a beautiful cover, Philip. How did that all come together?
I wanted to get across the idea that grieving is not a place to live, but it's a journey. It's something that you have to come through. And so the cover was a collaboration and, talking to the folks at Christian Publishing and said, I really wanted to get across the idea of somebody who was on a journey, perhaps a hiker. I wanted to get across the idea that they were coming out of darkness and coming into the light. And I think they captured that beautifully.
I know so many people are going to be helped by this book. Again, it's titled Blessed, A Journey Through Grief to Gratitude. It's written by Philip L. Winteregg, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores, pretty much everywhere. Well, Philip, thanks again for coming on the show and talking with me tonight. It was really great.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, I'm looking at a book that's an exploration of spiritual growth. It's written by Annaika Dastine, and it's titled A Daughter's Cry and a Father's Response, Inspirational Devotions. Annaika is right here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We get to talk all about this book. Annaika, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, Corey. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad to have you, and I'm excited to learn all about A Daughter's Cry and A Father's Response. Annaika, can you tell me what readers are going to expect here?
Well, A Daughter's Cry and A Father's Response is really a story about a little girl who felt desperate, who did not know about Jesus, did not know about God, but knew religion, but didn't know about the relational with God. And God came during a time of desperation and heard her cry and rescued her from Satan's dungeon, from Satan's claw that was drowning her. And what others will see is just that no matter who you are, no matter how far you think you've gone, you are never too far for God to transform your life and bring you back to what God intended for you to be from the beginning.
Wow, what an amazing story, Annaika. What sorts of readers did you have in mind when you were doing this?
When I was doing it, really, the truth is, this book I started writing this book the day that God heard my cry. And unknowingly, I didn't know I was writing a book. So when the Lord put it in my heart to write this book, I fought him for many years. I did not want to. I just said, no, nobody's interested. Oh, everybody has a story. And of course, the Lord kept bringing people back and forth into my life. So when I started putting everything together and reflecting on my life, I did not have any particular readers in mind, to be honest with you, Corey. What I would like everyone to get from the book, it's not about one group or another group. It's about everyone. I just need everyone. I desire for everyone to know that God loves them no matter where they are, but Satan and his demons are after their soul. So it's really for non-Christian Christians or people who may doubt, does God really exist with everything going on around the world, with things that might be going on in their lives and whatever it may be, just to give them hope to understand the spiritual battle, the warfare that's raging for their soul.
Annaika, what does your writing background look like? Do you have a lot of experience in this?
No, this is my first time ever. It's a leap of faith, trusting God, that God has allowed me to be able to move forth and trust him and surrender. This is my very first book. I have absolutely no experience. This is all led by God and the Holy Spirit leading me to do this for his glory.
So you hooked up with your publisher then, Christian Faith, and you started that process. Annaika, what would you say is the most challenging part of that whole publishing end of things?
The challenging part was knowing who to go with and who to trust and praying through it and making the decision to choose a publishing. And I'll tell you, although I had some hesitations, I didn't know what I was doing. Christian Publishing has been a wonderful asset that God has sent my way. And they have walked me through the whole process, and they make it seem so easy. I know it's God, but really God used them as a vessel to be able to ease my anxiety and to be obedient to his call.
So a lot of time, a lot of hard work went into this, and finally, that one day, it was a real thing. You were finally holding that first copy in your hands, Annaika. What was that moment like for you?
Oh, my goodness. It was overwhelming. I remember I walked through the door. I opened the box with excitement. I opened the book and I kept saying, look what God has done. And it was just an overwhelming feeling to know that God has brought me to this point where my story can go out there to help someone understand who their true enemy is, and God is ready to rescue them. It was overwhelming. I don't even have a word to describe how I felt, except that I kept saying, look what God has done.
Again, it's titled A Daughter's Cry and A Father's Response, Inspirational Devotions. It's written by Annaika Dastine and published by Christian Faith Publishing and available pretty much everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also right down the street at your local bookshop. Annaika, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight and learning about your story and about this book. Thanks so much for being here.
Same here, Corey. Thank you so much for allowing me to be able to share a little bit of my story.
The Ranger's Last Stand. It's the new book written by Jose Martinez, and it's a tale of faith, courage, and resistance. We're going to be talking all about it right now. Jose is here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Jose, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
By the way, my friends call me Joe, so just feel free to do that.
I appreciate that, Joe. Can you tell me all about The Ranger's Last Stand and what readers are going to be getting into here?
Well, it's an adventure a book. It's going to include car chases, minimal romance, but plenty of shootouts. But at heart, it's a book about beliefs and doctrines and what a person is willing to fight for. The basic story is about a man who's a small businessman. He's a retired Army Ranger, and he lives in Northern California in the town of Butterfly, which is actually another name for Mariposa, California. And so what's been happening in his general community is that Bureau of Land Management has essentially been kicking people off their properties by way of eminent domain. I'm trying to make this as realistic as possible. What would happen if a person who's combat trained knows how to kill people and break things, and when Bureau of Land Management comes to his house, he absolutely refuses? Now, there's another half to this story, and the story is that there is an administration that is bent on turning all, if not most, of the United States into a Green New Deal by basically taking people's properties and putting up either wind farms or solar farms. So the story then sort of, it's what would it look like for a person who's well trained in infantry tactics as a ranger would be? What would that realistically look like if this thing escalated past rhetoric? So the hero of the story is well versed in being able to set up booby traps and this just basically act as light infantry against a much larger force, which starts out with Bureau of Land Management, but then quickly escalates to a couple of companies of mechanized infantry from the 40th Infantry Division and a hand-picked special operations group. So that's basically the gist of the story. So if you like adventure, you like shootouts, but if you like a story that is based on values, what might a person with strong enough values do in a situation like that? That's essentially what I try to sort of capture.
Interesting. Joe, what kinds of readers do you think would be really into this?
Well, I think anybody who is interested in military-style stories, stories that involve a bit of mystery, folks that have an understanding of their constitutional rights, and that they understand that our constitutional rights essentially come from God. I think that sort of person might actually enjoy a book like this. I'm not sure that a whole lot of women might like it, but I think that there's enough story there that would capture the imagination of a Christian-believing woman as well.
Well, Joe, I'm curious how this all came about. So where did this idea come from? How did you decide to get started?
Well, in previous administrations, we did have a tremendous growth of wind farms and also solar farms that kind of just grew up all over the Southwest. And come to find out that a lot of those green types of energy producers are not necessarily the best thing. And so in most cases, either state governments, county governments, or individual property owners simply would acquiesce to the demands of the government by taking their property by way of eminent domain.
Well, again, the book is titled The Ranger's Last Stand. It's written by Jose Martinez, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available pretty much everywhere. Places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Joe, thanks so much for coming on the show. It was really great to talk with you tonight.
Well, you're more than welcome, and thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.